The move the Philadelphia Eagles just might fly under the radar for some people, but for those paying attention, it could be one of the smartest adjustments of the early season. The team signed wide receiver and return specialist Xavier Gibson, and make no mistake, this was not a random pickup. It's a calculated decision, directly responding to a major issue that nearly cost the Eagles their game against the Rams. If you watched that matchup, especially the first half, you saw it. It wasn't just a minor problem. It was a flat-out disaster on special teams, particularly on kick returns. And the numbers don't lie. The Eagles consistently started their drives pinned near their own 15-yard line. That kind of field position kills momentum, limits play calling, and puts your quarterback under constant pressure. The Rams kicker, Joshua Carty, wasn't just sending routine kicks down the field. He was using a low line drive, knuckleball-style kickoff that was both unpredictable and incredibly hard to handle. Whether it was Tank Bigsby or John Mechie back there fielding the ball, it was clear that neither of them was ready for that kind of heat. They couldn't get clean catches, and they couldn't generate any meaningful yardage on the return. That forced Jalen Hurts and the offense to start deep in their own territory time and time again. It was frustrating to watch, and for the Eagles coaching staff, it was an embarrassing reality check. That's where Xavier Gibson enters the conversation. Claimed off waivers just days after being released by the New York Giants, Gibson brings something this Eagles roster desperately needs: experience and explosiveness in the return game. Fans might remember him from his time with the New York Jets, most notably in that primetime game against the Buffalo Bills where he took a punt return to the house in overtime. That same game was the night Aaron Rodgers tore his Achilles, but Gibson stole the show. It wasn't just a big return, it was a statement. He's a shifty, fearless returner with real game-breaking potential. He's not a big guy, 5'9", just under 190 pounds, but he's got quick feet, a low center of gravity, and a kind of short area burst that makes him a nightmare to tackle in open space. He played college football at Stephen F. Austin and grinded his way into the NFL as an undrafted free agent. Since then, he's managed to make an impact not just on special teams, but also occasionally as a slot receiver. In total, he's logged 27 receptions for over 260 yards and scored 3 touchdowns. 1 receiving, 1 rushing, and 1 on a return. That's versatility. That's the kind of player who can fill multiple roles on game day and provide a spark when it's most needed. Now let's not forget that this signing also coincides with an unfortunate injury. Darius Cooper, one of the most exciting stories from training camp and preseason, a true underdog who made the 53-man roster, injured his shoulder. Cooper had been in the mix for return duties, and with him potentially sidelined for some time, the Eagles were left scrambling. Gibson fills that gap immediately and brings more upside as a returner than anyone else currently on the roster. To make room for Gibson, the Eagles released offensive lineman Kenyon Green. Green never really found his footing in Philly after arriving from Houston in the trade that sent C.J. Gardner-Johnson to the Texans. Sometimes a fresh start is what a player needs, and in this case, the Eagles are clearly prioritizing immediate special teams impact over depth on the line, especially considering how underwhelming the return unit has been so far. Nick Sirianni didn't shy away from the issue either. In his post-game comments, he took full responsibility for the poor special teams performance, saying flat out that it was on him. That's the kind of accountability you want from a head coach, but also a clear indicator that changes were coming. Gibson is that change. And with the Eagles set to face the Buccaneers next, you can expect him to see the field right away. He's likely to get kick return opportunities on Sunday. And with his history of rising to the occasion under the lights, he could be the difference in field position that tips the balance. The bigger story here is not just the acquisition of one player. It's a philosophy behind it. This is classic Howie Roseman, constantly turning over the roster, always on the lookout for ways to get better, even when the team is undefeated. That's what separates average front offices from elite ones. Roseman never sleeps. He's traded for returners, tried them out, watched them struggle, and moved on without hesitation. He brought in Tank Bigsby, then John Mechie, and now it's Gibson's turn. And that's on top of other smart acquisitions like Fred Johnson, who stepped in effectively when Lane Johnson went down. Roseman is always evaluating, always adjusting. Now, while special teams were a mess in the first half against Los Angeles, the second half told a completely different story, especially on offense. The Eagles flipped the switch after halftime. Suddenly, Jalen Hurts looked like the MVP-caliber quarterback we've seen before. He completed 16 of 22 passes for over 200 yards and 3 touchdowns in the second half alone. No interceptions. A passer rating of 140.9. It was a clinic, and it left everyone wondering who was calling the plays. The first 2.5 games of the season had been rough offensively. The Eagles weren't playing with tempo, weren't being aggressive, and the play calling felt safe, almost scared at times. But something clearly changed in the second half against the Rams. That offensive unit came out swinging, pushed the ball downfield, and forced the defense to respect every inch of the gridiron. That's the Eagles offense fans want to see. That's the version that wins championships. So who was behind it? For a brief moment, rumors started swirling that Jalen Hurts had taken over play-calling duties. Given how sharp and in control he looked, it wasn't a crazy theory. But Nick Sirianni shut that down during his Monday presser. According to the head coach, it was Kevin Patullo, the passing game coordinator and assistant head coach, who took over play-calling responsibilities in the second half. And while Sirianni emphasized that Hurts has a significant voice in what's happening on the field, reading defenses, communicating adjustments, it was Patullo making the calls. And you could feel the difference. The offense wasn't just more efficient, it was more aggressive. They played with purpose. They didn't just try to protect a lead or play conservative football. They attacked. They hunted. That's the identity this team needs to embrace if they want to dominate this season. A.J. Brown echoed that sentiment in his post-game comments. He didn't hold back. He said what a lot of fans have been thinking. This team has too much talent to play it safe. Let your playmakers be playmakers. Let them eat. Let them take over games. Brown wasn't throwing shade. He was being honest. In his comments, along with Hurts' post-game message about avoiding the play-not-to-lose mentality, sent a clear message to the coaching staff. This team is built to attack. They've got a top-tier quarterback, dynamic weapons like Brown and Devonta Smith, an elite tight end in Dallas Goedert, and one of the best offensive lines in football. There's no excuse for holding back. If the Eagles can harness that second-half energy, that second-half urgency, and carry it into full four-quarter performances, they're going to be a nightmare for every opponent they face. When we talk about wild regular season wins in Eagles history, there are always a few classics that come to mind, the kind of games that are instantly etched into the memory of every fan who watched them live. But this victory over the Rams might have just earned its place among those legendary moments. Think about it. Down 26-7 with just over 12 minutes left in the third quarter, win probability sitting at a miserable 8.6%, and yet the Eagles stormed back with 26 unanswered points to win 33-26. That is not a typical comeback. That is the stuff of franchise folklore. What made it even more incredible was how quickly the momentum shifted. It wasn't just one play. It was a sequence of moments where the team, the coaching staff, and the fans all locked in. And the turning point that truly flipped the game on its head? The blocked field goal by Jordan Davis, scooped up and returned for a touchdown. A defensive tackle, 6'6", over 300 pounds, moving at nearly 19 miles per hour, rumbling down the sideline like a runaway freight train. It was pure chaos. Lincoln Financial Field erupted. The sideline exploded. That play wasn't just important. It was iconic. You could feel the energy completely change from that moment on. What makes this win even crazier is how unlikely it felt just moments before that. The offense couldn't get going in the first half. The special teams were a disaster. The Rams were in control, but something snapped. And when a team is able to flip a switch like that in the middle of a game, not by luck, but by execution, intensity, and belief, it tells you something special is happening behind the scenes. It wasn't just players stepping up. It was a mentality shift. You could see it in Jalen Hurts' eyes. You could hear it in the way the crowd came alive. You could feel it in the flow of the game. Suddenly, the Eagles weren't playing not to lose. They were playing to win. That's what separates great teams from good ones. And when you stack this game up against some of the craziest wins in franchise history, it absolutely holds its own. The miracle at the Meadowlands back in 1978. Herm Edwards scooping up that fumble and scoring. Then again in 2010, with Deshaun Jackson returning that punt as time expired. Randall Cunningham's heroics at RFK Stadium after being down by 20 points. Jake Elliott's 61-yard field goal to beat the Giants. And now, Jordan Davis's blocked field goal and the incredible comeback against a Rams team that many consider a legitimate NFC contender. That's not just a comeback. That's a moment. A game that years from now, people will reference when talking about what this team is made of. And part of what made it so impressive is that it came against a team that's known for being well-coached and fundamentally sound. Sean McVay is not the kind of coach who lets teams back into games. But the Eagles didn't just crawl back. They took over. They dominated every phase of the second half. Offense, defense, special teams, everybody contributed. It was the most complete 2 quarters of football they've played all season. And now all eyes shift to the next test, the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. Both teams are undefeated. Both are looking to make a statement. And for the Eagles, this is about more than just keeping a perfect record. It's about proving that the identity they showed in the second half against the Rams isn't a one-time thing. It's who they really are. But here's where things get interesting. The Eagles are already making adjustments to prepare for the unique challenge that playing in Tampa brings. For the first time in recent memory, they're flying down a day earlier than usual, not just to get settled, but to acclimate to the heat, humidity, and conditions that can really wear on teams that aren't used to that Florida climate. They're expected to have a light workout in Tampa on Saturday, a smart move to get the blood flowing and get a feel for the environment. Because let's be real, playing in Tampa in late September is no joke. The forecast is calling for highs in the mid-80s, humidity pushing the real field temperatures close to 90 degrees, and a solid chance of rain. Those are tough conditions for any team, but especially for a squad coming from the Northeast. And given the Eagles' recent track record against the Buccaneers, they can't afford to leave anything to chance. Before we continue, don't forget to subscribe to our channel and give this video a like. Your support helps us keep delivering the latest updates on our Philadelphia Eagles. And don't be shy. Share your thoughts on the news in the comments below. Rumors are swirling in the NFL world after Los Angeles Rams head coach Sean McVay dropped a bombshell in a press conference that has fans and analysts buzzing. According to McVay, the Rams' recent clash against the Philadelphia Eagles was, in his words, stolen from them. A statement that has immediately ignited a storm of speculation across social media and sports news outlets. The game, which saw both teams trading blows in a high-stakes showdown, ended in a result that McVay clearly feels did not reflect the Rams' performance on the field. While he stopped short of accusing specific players or referees of intentional wrongdoing, his comments hint at controversial calls and questionable officiating that may have influenced the outcome. Insider sources suggest that McVay was visibly frustrated after reviewing key plays, including a couple of borderline penalties and a last-minute decision that went in favor of the Eagles. Fans have not held back either, flooding forums and Twitter with theories about missed calls, replay controversies, and the possibility that the NFL might need to revisit the game. If you watched that final quarter, you'd know the Rams deserved a different ending, one anonymous source close to the team reportedly said. Analysts are now poring over game footage, debating whether McVay's claim holds any water or if it's merely the fiery rhetoric of a coach passionate about his squad. Adding fuel to the fire, insiders claim that McVay has privately expressed frustration not only with the referees, but also with the league's handling of replay reviews. While the Rams have yet to make any official statement beyond McVay's initial remarks, the murmurs are already shaping up to be one of the season's hottest narratives. Could this lead to a formal protest? Will the NFL review the plays in question? No one knows for sure, but the buzz is undeniable. As the Rams regroup and prepare for their next matchup, the shadow of this alleged robbery looms large. Whether McVay's claims will spark changes or simply become another heated chapter in NFL folklore remains to be seen. But one thing is certain. The rivalry with the Eagles just got even more intense, and fans everywhere are watching with bated breath. That's it for this update. If you enjoyed the video and want to stay updated with exclusive news about our Philadelphia Eagles, be sure to subscribe to our channel and hit that like button. We can't wait to hear your thoughts in the comments. See you in the next video.